I am such a big fan of you too. And I think we have the same name. Is your legal name Alexandra?
Yes.
Me too. Should we call each other Alexandra?
Should we go by Alexandra today?
Yeah, nobody calls me Alexandra in interviews.
Oh my God, I wonder how did you get Aly and how did I get Alex? Where did you,
Okay, so, first of all, I'm a very big fan of you too. Congratulations on everything. It's amazing. Love listening to your podcast. So my legal name is Alexandra.
Right.
And really, no one calls me that. When I was little, I used to actually be called Sexy Lexi, which is probably weird. But when I was 5 years old, everyone called me Sexy Lexi. I don't know why.
Okay, Aly.
I didn't know what sexy meant, but everyone called me Sexy Lexi in kindergarten. Even some of the moms around me too, they still call me that to this day. What? And then when I was a couple years later, I thought my real name was Alexandra, and I asked my mom one day, and she said it was Alexander, and I felt like I had been lied to my whole life because I was a very dramatic kid. So then I went by Alexander for a little bit, and then I actually don't remember where Aly came from. But I love when my childhood friends call me Lexi because it's just they knew me before everything.
I was about to say, I thought you were going to say, I love when my childhood friends call me Sexy Lexi. I'm like, yeah, I wish my childhood friends would call me Sexy Lexi. They call me Big Al. You got Sexy Lexi and I got Big Al from Alexandra. Make it make sense. I love that for you personally.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So when I was younger, I used to get made fun of all the time for how muscular my arms were. And I remember when I was in 5th grade, the boys would make fun of me and told me I looked like I was on steroids, and they would call me roids, and it made me so sad. And this has affected me so much that at 30 years old, I have just started to be able to wear sleeveless or tank dresses. And it makes me so sad that I wasted that much time. But it's really incredible how, I guess incredible in a bad way, how when people make fun of you, how it can really stay with you. And then I remember in 7th grade so vividly, I was wearing a tank top and some guy told me that I looked disgusting and said my arms were disgusting. And so I literally, actually, this was a big moment for me at Olympic trials last week. I wore a dress that totally showed my arms. And I was saying to my mom, I was like, this is such a big deal for me that I'm doing this, because I would have been so self-conscious and worried. And now I'm just trying, it feels so freeing to just try not to worry as much. But it's just so, I think that as I do more therapy, it's amazing how much stuff sticks with us. And I think that's also why I have anxiety or social anxiety, because I'm I hope I've never said something that would ever stick with someone. I would feel so bad. And I know sometimes, sometimes we're all human. We all say things sometimes we don't mean, or we don't even realize someone interpreted it in a different way. But I think I'm so afraid of making someone feel the way that other people made me feel that I'm almost too hyper aware.
Yeah.
But so that was a really big one. I think I was always self-conscious of my body, because in gymnastics, they were so strict with my weight. And even though we worked out so much, I still had to watch what I ate a lot. I also want to be careful with saying this, because I know how many people struggle with body dysmorphia and eating disorders. So I think it's so important, no matter what sport you're in, to fuel your body and eat a lot of food. And I wish I could go back and tell myself to eat more and fuel my body, but I just felt so much pressure to always be skinnier and skinnier. And it was so unhealthy because I was already working out so much. And it's crazy for me to look back at photos of myself where I was being told to lose more weight, and I'm didn't have an ounce of fat on me. It's just, this is for any of people that are athletes, and I'm obviously not a medical expert, so don't quote me on these exact numbers, but I do believe that women are supposed to have a higher body fat percentage than men. And I remember going into 2016 Olympics, I was very, very thin just from the pressure in the sport to be a certain weight. And I was 22 years old, so I was kind of fighting with becoming a woman and still looking like a little girl. Yep. And I remember the person who was taking my body fat, they had said that, I remember when I did it. So go back, actually, when I was 16, I had someone else do my body fat, and they were saying that they'd never seen someone under 12%. And they had said women should be 18 or 20%. I don't know how accurate the 18 to 20% is. So he was so you're probably going to be maybe around 12. And I remember I was at 8%. And at the time I was 16, and he was really concerned about it. He's you're way too low. And I was 16. And then when I was 22, about to leave for the Rio Olympics, I remember my body fat was at 5%. And I remember the person who works with NFL players was like, he was like, this is not okay. Like, you can get seriously hurt, and this is terrible. He's like, I've never seen, he's like, even the guys sometimes being this low. He's like, you're lower than some of the men on the team. And I remember I was like, I just need you to, there's nothing I can do about it, because like, this is what the judges and the coaches like need from me. Right. I was like, I just need you to be supportive and tell me it's going to be okay. He's like, I can't. Like, he's like, this is so dangerous for you. And I actually feel like my body has never recovered from being that thin and like fighting against that. So it's very interesting, because I can remember I would still eat and feel my body, but at the same time there was this like trying to like, there was so much pressure. I can remember like, this is so gross now. I'm like, I've become more of a germaphobe as I've gotten older, but this is so gross. But it just like, desperate times call for desperate measures. Like, I remember times like literally, because there was so much pressure to be thin, I had to be careful what I ate in front of, you know, people on the staff. And I remember like I would go into like the airport in the plane bathroom, which is disgusting, and like eat a power bar. So like no one would see me, where that is just like so gross to me now. But when you're so hungry, it doesn't even seem gross. But it was just, so I remember like I would try to eat, but there was so much pressure to be thin that it just was very, very hard. So I was very insecure about that in high school, of course, because I thought, oh, well, the guys think that I'm big too, so that's why they're not interested in me.
No, and Aly, like it's not gross, like it's so sad. Like that, like my heart breaks for you that you had to go into that bathroom and to like eat in secrecy because of the coaches and like the mentality and the rules and the strictness. And like even thinking of like that doctor saying that to you of like, wait, you're at 5%. Like, do you think you were numb at that point? Like, did you feel anything? Like, what did you feel when someone said that to you and looked at you and said that to you?
I think at that point, because the Olympics were so soon, I was just consumed with anxiety and stress all the time. It's just so, I just constantly had butterflies in my stomach, and I was so nervous that I also think part of it in a way was probably, I don't even remember. I think I was just, at the time I had actually had a really sore Achilles, and I was really stressed about that. That's obviously a terrible injury, and if, you know, something happened, I would be out. So I was really stressed about that. And I remember every morning waking up and like, it was so stiff in the morning, and I'd have to like brace myself to get out of bed. Like, there's just so many things. I feel like now that I'm done, I'm so much more relaxed. But I remember just being so stressed, hoping that my body would keep it together. But I think one of my biggest concerns with competing was, I hope my muscles don't cramp up, and I feel I'm so exhausted. So that was what's so interesting to me, is that I was so good at gymnastics and successful in the sport while I had like so little energy. My muscles were cramping up. I was so exhausted and so fatigued. And I also would, in 2016, I remember a couple years maybe before the Olympics, I would start to get like extreme nausea. And I think because I was so thin for my size, I would like wake up in the morning and almost be like dry heaving, because I was like gagging, because I was so nauseous. And so it was really hard for me, and it's really hard when you're nauseous to eat. So I just remember feeling so sick all the time that I think I was numb, and I was so dissociated because I just needed to get through it. And I was so nervous. I don't know, it was just such a weird thing. And I'm now like doing a lot of therapy and going through it, but it's hard because you're like reliving that. And going, I'm like, it's funny because the Olympics are coming up. I like am having dreams that I'm competing, and I wake up, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I'm done. I mean, look, like you mentioned, there's so many beautiful things that have come out of my gymnastics career, but it's such an interesting time right now. Obviously, as the Olympics comes up, I'm so excited and I can't wait. And I've been doing a lot of actually exposure therapy right now, where for people who don't know, it's sort of like exposing yourself to the trauma or whatever it is that has caused you stress or pain. So that could be if you had someone that hurt you and they wore like a specific perfume or a cologne, like maybe you like smell the cologne or the perfume every day to like remake better memories with that. Or it could be, you know, writing down a memory or talking about a memory or watching something. So I've been doing that a lot, and that's been really helpful. But it's kind of like sometimes it can make things worse before it gets better. Or I'm like, oh my God, I have so much to work through. It's so overwhelming. There's just so much there. And then there's stuff I forgot about that now I'm like,
It's coming back
yeah.
up. I was going to say, like, I think a lot of women write in about therapy, and everyone has like a different journey with like what type of therapy will work for them. And I think the exposure therapy is like, has been known recently to be very effective. But I was going to ask you, like, in doing that type of therapy, do you have to be strategic? Like, if you know you're going on a long trip coming up, like if you're going to Paris, like, are you doing sessions while you're in Paris? Are you doing it before? Are you too anxious around this type of, like, we're talking about gymnastics right now, and that's the crux of the trauma? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
such a good question. Yeah, so we actually have stopped doing the exposure homework. So what I do is I do therapy every week, and then I would try to do exposure a little bit every single day. But because of, I had mentioned before, like my body's never recovered. I've struggled with some health stuff, which we can get into after, from just like the overexhaustion of what I put my body through. So depending on the day, however, because there are so many actually like exposures of, whether it's doing interviews or even going to Olympic trials was actually such a wonderful experience. And I'm so glad I went, but I was so nervous, and just like being back in that environment, like certain smells, or even like there's like a bell that rings before you compete. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't heard this in so long, like all these little things. So I'm stopped the actual exposure homework in therapy, but I feel like I'm being exposed in throughout a lot of different things right now. So we're doing baby steps and just working on like ways to cope with some of that stuff. But it's been it's really interesting, and I'm glad like my therapist has really worked with me. Like, for example, there was a person's name, that someone who had abused me, that their name was so triggering for me. And so like anytime I'd be with someone and they'd mention their name, not about the person, but maybe like their friend or someone they're golfing with, I was just like, I'd feel this like feeling. And so I would read a children's book with his name that was just like, or I'd read a book about an athlete that had the same name. So it's like getting used to that name in a more positive way. And so I feel like my therapist has done such a good job of meeting me where I'm at, because in the past, maybe another therapist is like, just tell me all about your trauma. I'm like, let's just start with the children's book. Like, I'll watch a little kid show, something to like baby steps into it. And I've learned there's no right or wrong way. And I think like I have so many people come up to me all the time and share their stories of like being a survivor of abuse or their mental health struggles. And I always will say to them, like, if you're having a tough day, it's okay to watch your favorite show on Netflix or whatever it is. Like, it's okay to just like give yourself a break, because people don't realize when you've experienced trauma, you have PTSD, you're going through it, even if you're on the most beautiful island in the entire world, you are not there mentally sometimes, and you're just like reliving your trauma over and over again. And so I always try to validate people's experiences, because I think so many people don't understand trauma and like the mental side of it, and how hard it is to be present when you're going through a hard time. Like, even if someone's hard time happened 10 years ago, you still could be living it every single day. You still could be super paranoid. PTSD is like not one size fits all. It affects you in so many different ways. You could be totally fine, and then there could be like, someone's body lotion reminds you of a smell and it brings you right back. And so I think that we all just have to talk about it more, so we're all more aware of like how much people are struggling and dealing with, and give people grace, because sometimes you just need to, it's okay to just be home and take time for yourself. So I'm glad my therapist has kind of given me permission to just like take it really baby steps. And thank you. I do feel a lot of pressure, and I care a lot. And I've even had male CEOs pull me aside and say, I was abused as a child, and thank you for saying something. So I've had a lot of men come up to me and share that. And I think that what's so hard about our world is that there are so many young boys and men who are survivors of sexual abuse, and they don't feel comfortable saying anything because our society doesn't, like, there's so much pressure on men to be so tough and be manly, and the statistics are so alarming. But there's also so many, I think it's actually so much more than that. There's so many people who are really suffering in silence. And I have some people sometimes who, I'll be in the grocery store and they're like, my abuse happened 50 years ago, you're the only person I've ever told. And so I can't even tell you how much I've had to work on in therapy of like not overthinking what I say and worrying, because I know from personal experience when we share what we've been through with someone and it's the only person, the first person, like that is so correlated to how they're going to heal, is being validating to them. So I felt so much pressure, and now I have found that when I'm honest and just real with them and just supportive, that people are always like so understanding. And I think people who have been through hard times always like give people the benefit of the doubt and are there for each other. But it has affected me so much. And it's interesting. I've never actually shared this publicly at all, because it's been something that I deal with, I'd say, most days. And I think that I've thought about this a lot, where I think that if I didn't train so intensely my whole entire life and I didn't experience trauma in my, teenage years and younger years, I have actually been hospitalized several times for just like my body has. I read something on Instagram that I think really encapsulates it. It says, if you don't pick a day to rest, your body will pick it for you. And it's happened twice where it's been like this intense, but I feel like I have different minor issues as well, depending on what I'm going through at the time, but where like I have literally stroke-like symptoms. I can't remember my name. I'm like slurring my words. I can barely speak. Both times I was tested for a stroke because like I literally couldn't move my body. It was so scary. And the first time the doctors had like absolutely no idea what it was. And it was so scary because also my abuse happened with the doctor. So the first time it happened was during COVID. And so they wouldn't let my mom in the ambulance with me. So it's really interesting because I can understand what someone is saying to me and asking me. Like, I know they're asking me what my name is, but I can't remember my name or say what my name is. And I was aware enough to know, like, oh my God, I have two men that I can't move my arms and my legs. I can't move my body. I can't speak. Like, what if they take advantage of me? And so that at the time, this was years ago during COVID. So I was like really still struggling a lot with PTSD, where people don't realize how much it still lives with you when you've been through something traumatic. So that was really hard for me. And then it happened again a little bit over a year ago, where it was like it actually was in the hospital for 3 days. And like, they obviously don't keep you in the ER for 3 days for nothing, but it was really scary. And I remember like they wouldn't release me because I couldn't like sit up on my own. It took me so long. I needed help like walking, going to the bathroom. Like, it was just the most, to be able to go from being like an athlete and being able to push myself so much to being able to literally not even be able to like move my fingers, move my legs. I had like complete like body paralysis, and not even to know like what my name is. It was so scary. And it's something where like on a daily basis, like I have to manage making sure that I'm not like, because stress exacerbates it. Like, what I have is a real medical thing, but stress makes everything worse. So I have to like be very on top of my therapy, but then also my therapist has to work with me of like, if I'm starting to feel off, like I just don't do the exposure stuff. So it's very hard and very interesting, because I'm also like, to your point, I'm very young. So to have something like that happen was very hard. And then also when I went both times, actually the second time, they didn't know who I was when I first got to the hospital, which is totally fine. That shouldn't matter. And the only reason why I share that is because my mom had said that they kept coming in and asking me to like lift my legs, and I couldn't. They kept saying, "What's your name?" And I was kind of just like, it almost like even like lifting my finger would like take so much energy that I couldn't even like, I just was so out of it. And they kept kind of like rolling their eyes and not really paying much attention to me. And then finally, my mom was like, I really hate to do this, but you guys are like ignoring her. I think you think she's like, I don't know what's going on, but you should treat everyone the same way. But she's like, I just want to tell you, because you're not believing her, but just to give you a perspective of how like abnormal this is and how freaked out I am. She was like, do you know who Aly Raisman is? And they were like, yeah, we know who she is. And my mom was like, well, that's her. And then they were like, oh my God. And then from there, they like took such great care of me and were there for me. And I'm like, I want to share that because it's appalling. Like, it doesn't matter who you are. Everyone deserves to get excellent medical treatment. And I don't know why they were like rolling their eyes at me or thought I was faking, but it wasn't until they realized that I was a very high level athlete that they were very nice to me and taking care of me, which is just like, that's also triggering for me because I already have trust issues with doctors. So it was just really, it's been a very complicated thing. And then I also have anxiety. Like, what if I don't feel well again? Because there's the fear of like, when I'm in Paris this summer, I'm going to be so busy. There's going to be a lot of triggers. I might see someone that maybe didn't protect me in the past. And so I always am just like, so
have to get over it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think also both can be true. Like, I love gymnastics and I have so many wonderful memories with my teammates and I'm still so close with them. And I'm so proud of my gymnastics career and I'm so excited to watch the Olympics. But then also, it could also be true that there was also a lot of moments that were really hard for me and I still struggle with it to this day. And I also think, to your point of, whether someone, I think a lot of times people will naturally, I think, when people have been through hard times, will be like, well, mine wasn't as bad. We kind of justify why it's not as bad. So I also want anyone who's listening to know, like, don't compare your experience to mine, whether your abuse happened one time or hundreds of times or thousands of times. Every experience is real and valid and it all affects us in different ways. And you didn't do anything wrong and it's not your fault. And just know that if you're struggling, and to your point, if it was 10 years ago, yesterday, 50 years ago, it's okay to still feel however you're feeling. I think that there's not enough people telling people that have been through hard times that we all are on our own path. And, also I think sometimes people might not be ready to do exposure therapy, and that's fine. It took me a really long time to be like, I'm ready to take this on because it's really hard to open stuff up. And I think if you want to, it's important to find a therapist who will like really do baby steps with you. And also, I'm here to validate. I get so annoyed when people ask me why I'm tired. I just like can't stand it because I also think like, why do people need an excuse to be tired? You have no idea what someone's going through. You could have like the most, incredible job in other people's eyes. But if you're having anxiety, if you're stressed, we have no idea what people are dealing with at home or in their personal life. And I just think stress can be so exhausting. Like, I have seen the way that my stress and trauma has affected my health so much to the point where it has made me so careful. Like, when someone's like, I'm tired, I'm like, that's cool. Like, just go rest and take care of yourself. But I think people can be really judgmental. We're judgmental with ourselves when we're tired, but we're also judgmental with other people, I think. And it drives me nuts. Like, when someone's like, well, why are you tired? I'm like, I don't have to explain myself to you. Like, you have no idea what I'm dealing with. And also, like, this would probably shock people too, but I barely have worked out in 8 years because my body is just like so tired. And it's interesting, like, I don't recover because of the similar with the hospital stuff. Like, my body doesn't recover the way that it used to. So if I were to run even for like a couple of minutes, like, it might actually take me like several days to recover, or I'll get like a migraine, or I'll get super nauseous. So like, I just have to be very careful and get very creative with how I take care of myself. But I think that, for people who are obsessed with working out, like, they might be like, well, why don't you work out? Like, and my favorite is like it's funny when you talk about dating, like when I've dated guys, a lot of them are like, but if you work out, you'll feel better. I'm like, no, I have like a full on like medical diagnosis and like, I'm going to be okay. Like, my doctor is like confident that it's not going to get worse because I'm aware of it and everything. But I'm like, just because you might feel better working out, like right now for me, it literally makes me like almost like vomit and I get a migraine. So I just have to do like, I might have a good day, but sometimes when you have a good day as an athlete, I like push myself too much and then I'm exhausted. But it's been hard with dating to get a guy to be very empathetic and like know how to like be there for me if I don't feel well. Like, people don't always know how to like handle it well. And my mom is so good at it. Like, in the times where I've gone to the hospital, my mom, instead of being like, you're fine, because that's also the worst. You're like, I'm not fine.
Right. You're like,
I'm not
I feel
okay.
like shit. No,
yeah.
I can't walk.
Yeah. So when my mom will always just say, they're going to help you. Like, it's okay. I'm here for you. They're going to help you. And that is just like everything I need to hear, because it's like, she's validating, like, this is crazy and we're going to figure this out. We're going to help you. But she's also like there for me and encouraging me, but other people just like don't know what to say. They're just like, just breathe, you'll be fine. I'm like, no, I literally am laying on the floor. I can't move my body.
I think sometimes, like, note to anyone that finds themselves doing that, which I understand maybe you're trying to help, but it's like sometimes not saying anything but being like, I'm here for you is all you need to do.
Yes.
Like, stop trying to solve the problem. Why are you tired? Because I'm depressed? Because I'm anxious? Like, whatever it is. Just saying, like, I'm here for you. Let me know if you need anything. Like, and so
this is like one of the first things that I had written. Okay. I've lost count of how many times people have told me, you're too picky. You're difficult. Your standards are too high. Give him another chance. You're probably intimidating him. Maybe you should make yourself smaller. Your biological clock is ticking. Don't you want to have kids? You should put yourself out there more. How are you still single? Rarely am I asked, how are you? How do you feel with your partner? Do you like the person you are when you're with them? You're single? That's great. It's so important to take time to figure out who you are.
Preach, bitch. Like, what the hell? When I read that, it felt like it was so, like, truly emblematic of every young woman's experience with society of like, we give him another chance. Like, why don't you? And it's like, because I don't like him, because he makes me feel like shit, because it's toxic. Like, there's just so many things that women go through in their 20s and 30s.
I feel like I'm always trying to think about ways of how I can talk about things that are important to me, but it's also really important to me to be relatable, and I want to be relatable. And I know that so many people are going through so much different stuff. And I know for myself that I do feel the pressure. I love my parents, but I've literally had to tell them, like, you can't, like every time they would be like, well, we really want to have grandkids. I'm like, I would love to be a mom one day, but like, you can't control when you're going to find the right person. And I'm like, I love you guys so much, and I would love to give you grandkids, but let's just take a beat. And so they, like, I told them one time, and now it's like totally fine, but they're so well intentioned. They're just excited. But I also will tell my mom and dad's stories, like when I don't have great experiences with dating, and because I want them to understand it's not easy to find that right connection. And I think it's a very different time than when they were dating, when they were younger. And I just know that there's a lot of people who feel the pressure to find someone. And I think that especially in this Instagram social media world, there's so much pressure for like this perfect relationship, and we want to post the most perfect version of ourselves. And, you know, no matter who you are, nobody's life is perfect. No one's relationship is perfect. But I also think it's kind of interesting to me. It almost feels like there's this like pressure that in our late 20s, we're like supposed to find the right person. And I feel like the odds of us all finding that right person is just not realistic. And I wanted to sort of be a part of the narrative of trying to change that, because it is so much pressure. And I feel like even I was just for July 4th weekend, I was with friends, and just like the amount of people that were like, are you dating anyone? And I'm just like, I now, no matter what, am like, oh no, I'm not. I just don't. I also kind of feel more guarded and protective because I've shared so much publicly that I'm very protective over people that I date in my relationships, just because it should be sacred and special. And I think that it's really hard to find that good fit. And I also feel like, you know, I've gone through so much that I didn't really have the confidence to know who I was. And I feel like now I'm like just feeling more confident. Right. And it's really interesting because I feel like now I'm finally at the point where I feel like when I was younger dating in my early 20s, it was so hard in the early 20s because I was so afraid to like
tell me about it.
Even tell them like, wait, this makes me uncomfortable, or I don't want to do this. And now it's so interesting. The more I communicate, whether it's like from the first date or the first text, they're more into me because of it. Right. It's really interesting. And I feel really grateful for that because it makes me feel, I feel like very quickly I realize who actually is really supportive and understanding. And it makes me, when I do communicate what would make me more comfortable and they're like totally fine with it, in fact, go out of their way to do that, it just makes me feel so much safer with them. So I'm going into dating very differently now, where I'm not as afraid to be like, I really would like this. This would make me feel good. Where I was so afraid. I think I was afraid they would leave.
Then
Someone told me recently, and it really helped me. Because I was saying, I was like, oh my God, I'm like so like cringing that I dated this person for so long. And they're like, if you're not looking back and cringing, you're not growing. And
So
I was
true.
like, that is what I needed to hear. That made me feel better.
Let's pause on that for all the daddy gang.
That
If
was
you are
nice.
so embarrassed by an ex of yours, me included, let's all pause. And you're so right. It just means growth.
Oh,
It's
my
growth.
gosh.
Thank God we're all cringing, being like,
But I'm just sometimes like horrified at the stuff that I would put up with,
can you give me an example? Like,
Yes,
obviously, we're not
yes,
talking specific people,
yes.
but just like a little example.
I feel like it's interesting. Something that I've struggled with dating is that in the beginning, the guys are like really great.
Okay.
They're happy. They're chill. And also to what we were talking about before, I want a guy to communicate to me what they want
Yes.
too. And I also have had a therapist one time told me this, and I've never forgotten it, because I used to like wait, and then we'd talk about it and be like this whole thing where like, it's funny. I feel like if you bring something up when it's like just the littlest bit like on your mind versus like you have like a 30-second conversation about it and the other person's like, great. Like you're on the way to dinner. You're like, hey, by the way, this would like really mean a lot to me if we did this instead or didn't do this. And they're like, cool. Whereas if you wait till it happens like 50 times, then you have a 3-hour conversation about it. So I try to like also just bring it up really fast, and then it's quick and it's done, and then they like forget about it. It's not a big deal. And I would want the same
Such a good point.
for them. But I've struggled with, I don't know if it's because some of the guys I've dated maybe weren't like okay with my success or my life, but I feel like they've gotten very resentful and very moody. I don't know if like moody is the right word, but have you ever dated a guy that's very moody? Because it is just not fun.
Oh, it is miserable
It
because
is
then you're tiptoeing
miserable.
around them.
Everything's ruined.
You are on eggshells, and it's you know what it is? I feel like that's so interesting. I've had that where because of their insecurity about your success, through the moodiness and through the like the lashing out moments, it's a way, it's like a power tactic where it becomes all about them. Everything is on their terms, and you're kind of like, wait, are we still going to dinner, or are you pissed and we're just now going to sit here in silence? Like, what are we doing? And like everything is on their terms, but it's all like a manipulation tactic at the end of the day. And like, it may not be so manipulative in what they're doing. It's the insecurity that breeds this, like, how can I gain control because I feel so out of control because she's the one in a position of power in their mind. Meanwhile, you're literally like, in my success, that has nothing to do with you. Like, I'm here in this relationship. Why are we acting like moodiness?
Oh, it is like, I would say that's something that immediately like within like immediately I bring that up to any new guy I'm dating. I'm like, this is a total deal breaker for me. I can't, like, a guy is allowed to be upset or in a bad mood, but when you take it out on me and you're mean to me and you like ruin something that we're doing together, that's not okay. But everyone is allowed to, everyone has good days, bad days. Like if someone's in a bad mood and they're like, I'm in a really bad mood, but like I need, like, I'm gonna go to the gym or I need some space, or like, can we talk about it? Totally fine. But when I'm sure you've had like when you do something together and you're like, we just went to this concert. I would have gone with my friend.
Right.
I'd rather you have not gone. Or like, why are we going to dinner together if you're just like miserable? Like, I would have rather you told me and we wouldn't have done that. So that is something I look back and cringe on. I'm like, I think because I'm a people pleaser and I really wanted to help them, I didn't realize there's like a difference between being supportive to your partner and then having them treat you not well. So I'm learning that, but that is something like I immediately bring up to a guy. I'm like, that is a deal breaker for me and I'm not going to be treated like that.
That's interesting. When you look back at that, like moodiness is like one thing. And I feel like now that you're talking about it more, it's a little bit more than moodiness, Aly.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I'm like, wait a second.
Yeah, it's, I don't think I realized.
Moodiness is the people pleaser and you being like, he's just moody. I'm like, hold on.
No, I think yeah, you're right. Yeah, you are right. Add that to the list of therapy.
Right. You're like, hold on.
Yeah.
Write that down for me. Hold on.
Yeah, that's a thing that I'm like, that is a full-on deal breaker.
Right. Like,
well, I feel like I'm most excited because I've been told for a long time that when you hit 30, you kind of care less. And so I'm like slowly getting there, but I think I'm just excited to like peel back the layers of who I am and just have more fun, focus more on my personal life. And also I had a friend one time tell me, it was at her bachelorette party actually. And this was years ago. And she just said, you have so much to look forward to. Like you still have like that. So for anyone who's single, this actually really helped me. It's like you still have that like first date, your first kiss, like, you know, going into that like talking stage and falling in love. And like there's just still so much to look forward to. And if you're in a relationship or you're married, you still have so much to look forward to as well. Like there's so much different beautiful variations and chapters of life that I'm excited to keep growing and evolving and figuring out who I am. Because I also think it's important to give ourselves like space and permission to, if you want to outgrow a friendship, you want to try something new, you want to, whatever it is, like do what you want to do and do what makes you happy. So I'm starting to like care a little bit less, but
I think that's
still working on
beautiful.
it. Can you tell I care too much?
No.
Too much.
You're like, I don't care, Alex.
Yeah, I'm like, I swear I don't, but I do.
Like, I literally don't give a shit. I actually think when you were saying that, it just made me think of something that is kind of beautiful. When I was reading that article you wrote, it was really interesting, you know, and you mentioned it earlier, like talking about comparison, right? Of Instagram. And it's like every fucking week you open your phone and it's like someone got engaged or someone had a baby. And I look back at when I was single, and I talked about this recently. Like I have two different friend groups. One friend group is like all married and have babies, and I'm like the one last on the totem pole. And then my other friend group is like I'm ahead of the friend group in terms of like my relationship status or whatever the hell you want to call it. And I realize like we compare ourselves when we're single to the people in relationships that are getting married and all that stuff. We need to stop, because what I can tell you all is this. Here's a secret. I am now married, and now I'm comparing myself to the moms. And what I hear from the moms is then you compare yourself in your parenting style and where your kids are at. And then you compare what is your life balance to your kids and your career. It's like the comparison literally never stops unless you stop it. And so yes, it feels right now like this big point of like, whoa, I'm either married or I'm not. It's not just that. It's every fucking aspect of life, is every fucking thing. Women are just, we keep comparing ourselves. Am I doing it as good? Am I doing it as good? And so I thought it would stop like, whoa, I'm about to turn 30 this summer. I just got married, and I'm like, it really doesn't matter that I got married. Like, oh no, it does. Sorry, Matt. No, it does. It does. It does. I promise. But I mean, in terms of that, like, of course it was amazing and beautiful, but I also would have been so happy if it happened at 35. You know what I mean? Like, or 40, like the timeline. We need to be nicer to ourselves, because the comparison game, the next step you get to,
it's like a balance of not writing too much. And
right.
But there's also so many people like don't want to be a mom, and that's also okay. Yes. And I think a lot of people feel guilty for that. And if someone doesn't want to be a mom or a dad, they don't have to be. And I feel like people are so judgmental. And I know, you know, for some of my friends that are married, like they must feel like everywhere they go, people are asking them, when are you having kids? And it's like, it's just not everyone wants to, but it's also so much pressure. And also so many people struggle with infertility. And it's just such a personal thing that people go through. And there's just like so many layers to it. But I just think like I'm someone where I've always wanted to be a mom, and I'm excited for that. But I can't imagine like how frustrating it must be for people who don't want to be a mom, but maybe feel like they have to be, or they feel the pressure. Yeah.
No, I love that you're saying that, Aly. And I think this is like, it's like the trickle down effect of like, I think a huge thing I'm also taking from this, and I try really hard. Like I never ask people in interviews, like, do you want kids? Because it's like, we don't know anything behind the scenes. Kind of like when you said, when people ask me, why are you tired? Literally stop. Just stop. Stop asking people like, oh my God, the minute I got engaged, when are you getting married? When are you having kids? I'm like, oh my God, like some of these people feel so entitled to answers that they have no business having or even asking. And I feel like we need to stop asking people, do you want kids? Or, oh my God, when are you getting married? And like, are you dating, Aly? It's like, read the room. If you have now asked Aly or one of your single friends constantly every time you see them, imagine how annoying that is. Like, imagine how frustrating that is. Like, maybe wait, like, what's going on in your life? Like, how are you doing?
Well, like if I was in a like happy relationship, like you would know. I will tell you.
Okay, last question. What is something that you've learned about yourself recently that you wish you had known in your early 20s?
Ooh, good one. I wish that I trusted my gut more and just listened to that more, and also realizing it's okay, in fact, important to be myself. And I found the more I figure out who I am, the better relationships I have and the more fun that I have. So, yeah, I think trust.